Give me just a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, then you click on that link.
If you have a microphone, Rabbi.
I'll flip you into the presenter. So I have a microphone. Are you saying to test? Well,
No, if you have a connected, like a Bluetooth mic, you can pass it around.
There's no mic in this row. Oh, you mean that?
No, that's fine.
Oh, that's cute. It's cute, but I don't. Question is, what's he seeing? See, right now, look at that. He's only seeing, if I sit down here, you won't see me. Forward.
Where's the camera coming?
The camera's on the laptop.
One second. Real good.
Oh,
here, this is no big deal.
I want everybody.
Look, you can get a whole bunch right there.
You should be able to see everyone.
Is it there?
How many people? I don't know.
Yeah. So why don't you go on your phone right now?
No. Who's doing them?
Nine.
So we do. That's it. We're the main 4 seats.
And you stack these couches. That's all you do. This couch. Sorry.
All right.
You got about like 8 people on this probably now.
Yeah, sure.
One, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You can see.
More like 2, 4.
Yeah. Oh, that's me probably. Yeah, Michelle? You're amazing. I see you're trying to pursue.
You remember those women?
I remember one of them like 2 weeks ago.
They were good. Gave you some ideas.
Yeah, a little bit. The thing is, I'm not really looking for like a regular thing.
Right.
I'm looking for something crazy. That's what. So, but you know.
We'll try our best.
You can also move this one. No, just stop. Yeah, go. Actually, sit in the back row first. Take off your coat, by the way. All right, let me have him. Okay. All right, Danielle, go ahead. Follow the link. Log in. Once you come in, I'm going to flip you into the presenter. Okay. Question is, how loud is this? That's the next.
I want you to log in on your phone.
Oh, well, forget it. He's going to come on in a second. We'll have to do the testing. We already have 4 participants here. Hold on. Host me. Attendees 3. Oh, Cotlar. Here we go. More. Vote to panelists. Okay. All right. Oh, there you are. Okay, where's your volume though? You're not on mute. Why is that volume showing no volume? Oh, anyway, I don't want to. Truth is, I just want people to hear him. Not on 100%. Okay. Daniel, how are you, my friend?
Thank God.
Oh, good.
Okay, so
you are now the panelist. You should have presentation powers now.
But you can't start video.
Which says can't. Okay, hold on one. Okay, so Daniel was started off at he'll tell you about that. He started working in a very small website called, was it called blinds.com when you first started? No, or had a different name. Or
It was different before.
Different. And a very small. They were selling custom window shades. for your windows, different types of window treatments, the roll-ups, the pull-downs, all the different types. And this was at the very beginning of the time when people were transitioning, e-commerce was taking off, and they developed a very fine-tuned the system to make it drop dead easy for anybody to just do the right measurements and get in there, and they could pick and the colors. I mean, it's an art to take something so complicated like window shades. Really, traditionally, you bring a professional in, they do the measuring, and it's not something that it's not easy, click, but they managed to turn it into, they did the research and they fine-tuned a process which enabled people to go online and just purchase window treatments of all types. And Baruch Hashem, it took off, and he's going to talk about his journey, and it grew bigger and bigger, and they learned how to, understand their customers and get them to be repeat customers and to do multiple purchases. And, this is the whole, and they, Baruch Hashem, grew to such a beautiful size that the Home Depot became interested in them, and ultimately they were acquired by Home Depot. And after it got a little too corporate for Daniel, he moved on to, now he's involved in many startups. He's a very wise business person and very articulate. He's one of CHYE's mentors, and Baruch Hashem, he's helped a lot of guys that are in the startup space. That's his specialty, helping people in the startup space. And so without further ado, so Daniel, I'm going to pass the floor on to you. Daniel's going to share his story and his wisdom.
If I'm wise or not, I can only find out after all these new startup investments to see how they pan out. But make sure I'm not a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Can everyone see? I don't know. I'm testing whether I can share or not. You see what I'm sharing or not?
Yes, we do see it.
Okay, great. So thanks for the other introduction. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about maybe very relevant to some of you. Some of you, I'm going to do my best. Steer me in a direction if it starts to feel like it's not connecting. I know some of you are in management positions. Some of you are not. Some of you are aspiring entrepreneurs. So I'm going to try and mix it up. I think that even though some of this may be inaccessible to somebody who's maybe just a salesperson, who is a salesperson. Some of the salespeople made the highest salaries of the whole company in many places, but who there has a limited role as a salesperson. The truth is, a lot of it still applies in other ways. So, and when I was in business school, some of the best classes were like 1/3 strategy, 1/3 tactics, and 1/3 old man story time. So I'm going to try and mix it up. Give you a little variety. In general.
Wait, Daniel, maybe can you turn your PowerPoint to full screen? Right now, it's not full screen. Is this as big as it gets? Your presentation?
Hold on.
No. Oh yeah, is that? No. Oh, there. Wait a second. Oh, now you're full screen. Oh.
But no, 3, 2, 1, and this is better, right?
Yes, there we go. That's
okay.
Screen.
Okay. So yeah, as Shua said, I was very fortunate to be in the right place in the right time. Blinds.com grew to 200 million or so in sales. I was near co-founding head of marketing there. And right now I am puttering around with about 20 to 30 angel investments. I'm not a venture capitalist, but I aspire to be one. And I have a wholesale blinds business that I'm lucky to be a supplier to my old friends. So let's see if I can, or you can see this, right?
Yes.
Does anybody know what that is?
Seth Godin.
Pretty good. Pretty good. This so a nice quote that I like from him is this. I'm not using hyperbole when I say in 25 years I had at least 20 serious career-ending failures. That's definitely applied to me. And this is not anybody who says it's going to be a straight path is lying to you or selling you something. What we're going to talk about today. By the way, Seth Godin's a really great blog you should subscribe to. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to send out a number of books I suggest and I like personally, or blogs. And I love getting his daily, like the Havdil, it's like a yum. So, so I'm going to talk about understanding your customers, improving the customer experience. Sometimes the best way to grow your business is not to like chase after new customers, just improve the experience and you get more people in. How to run experiments, and then in general, that's marketing. And just as a side, so my background, I went to yeshiva, I got smicha, I came back to Houston where I'm a third generation, and I went to business school here. And then coming out, and I did work a little bit in a young company before that. I came out of business school, and I have to say, failure was the pathway to most of the meaningful things that I have gotten into. My first job was selling surgical instruments, and I was just handed a book with all the hospital's phone numbers in it, saying cold call every hospital, and I dialed and dialed, and I just found it was useless. Nobody wanted. You can't get in. You couldn't get. The whole thing was pointless. But out of that, discovered that maybe it's better to take somebody who's already selling into these hospitals, get a distributor, and make them carry our line. And the company, thank God, is doing well. I didn't stay in it because I left to go to school, but friends of mine did. And it was the first example to me of how you could discover something out of failure and improve it. In general, I very much believe in, and I mean, as we all do, Hashgacha Pratis. I remember that Hayomim of something in the middle of Elul is about how a Baal Asek, somebody who is in the business world, has a unique opportunity to see Hashgacha Pratis more than anyone else. And I've definitely seen this. I remember one of the job that I wanted the most is I wanted this. I was interviewing, and then the main interview happened on Shabbos. I was like, okay, I'm not going to go on Shabbos. Is that you can't get the job? I was like, okay, fine, I can't get a job. It was Enron, the company that just went down in a flaming ball of fire. You know, everything is meant to be. Sometimes you find out the day after. Sometimes you find out 10 years after the reason for things. I've always loved marketing. And one of the things in particular about e-commerce, which is why some of you are in e-commerce, what I really like most about it is there's such a tight connection between you and your customer. You have instant feedback about what's working and what's not. You can change something, you can see what happens. Another back to another thing of, so I was in e-commerce before like surgical instruments company in 1997. Before it was like, no one did that, but you know, I tried to list and make a catalog online, nobody bought it. But after out of business school, the only company who'd hire me is this small little startup that went out of business after 3 months. I went out of business out of 3 months, and then I had another startup I stayed in for almost a year, and then it went out of business. So now I had 2 kids, and I needed a job, and a friend hooked me up with a contract, like a consulting job. One of the things I liked a lot, and I still like, is web analytics. That is understanding the behavior of people online. So it's the math side of marketing. As I mentioned, you can see everything and you can make instant improvements. So I got a job as a consultant for 3 months that ended up as a 5-year stint at an energy company, which is to say, knowing your customers, sometimes they just want to, you know, you be whatever they are for them at that time. After 5 years, one of the 2 startups that had failed was this guy, and he went back to, after his startup failed, he went back into his family business, which was this little drapery shop in Houston. He sold blinds, and he started to sell online. And after he was selling a little more, and he was one of the first people online, he called me after a number of years, and he finally had success. And I had finally found a stable job, and I wasn't really looking. But he was such a mensch during the time that I had worked for him, the 3 months, that I decided to join him. And that's why, thank God, I joined Blinds.com. So today I'm going to bring some examples from Blinds.com, some examples of how to know your customers and how to experiment, how to test things. If you want, also in the Q&A, should I stop for a second, Shua?
Hold on 1 second.
Everything good? Yes? No?
Hold on 1 second. He's asking a question.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Well, he doesn't hear. Tell him to wait a second. Someone go up to the computer and tell him to hold on 1 second.
Hold on a second. Our sound's not working.
Now?
Okay. Okay, go. There you go.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
No, I just.
Okay, you can hear me now, yes?
No, forget it. Hold on. I just tried to do something, but forget it. Just leave it like this.
Tell me if you can hear me. Make some signal.
No, forget it. Hold on 1 second. Freeze for 1 second. Okay, speak now.
Hello, testing, testing.
Danielle,
Yes, testing, testing.
I just, you're good. I just tried. You're good. You're good. Just go.
Okay,
You hear me?
so, yeah,
Danielle, do you hear me?
I hear you, yes.
Okay, good. You're good. Go.
Okay. Most of the stuff I'm gonna talk about is blinds.com, but I have other, if you'd like to talk about some of the other startups that I've recently in, one of them is a Crown Heights young entrepreneur company, Edico, Barking. But I also have more involvement in Spruce. That's a home company that does like housekeeping for people who live in fancy apartments. Tips Treats that sells cookies online, and Brain Check that does concussion testing. My goal today is for you to come away with at least one thing you can take into your job or in your business, and some ideas to help you create like a culture of testing and experimentation and wherever you're working. So
just to rephrase,
yeah,
what you said, experimentation is understanding your customer. I mean, that's the cool thing about, and you can do this live in a store also with the online store. You could test different things and see if people bite.
yeah,
It's very important. You come up with a product, you start a business, you have to test and see what people like. If people don't like what you put out, you change it and then test it again.
Yeah.
Always changing. Don't think that this is it. If no one likes it, it's dead. You can keep on tweaking. So go for it.
something that I also, when I was in between jobs, somebody suggested I start saying Tillim Lam Chav Gimel Mizmor LeDavid every day, and then also Hazinu. So if anyone is struggling, I memorized Hazinu, and whenever I was driving, I said I lay in Hazinu. So that was another thing, just suggestions. Okay, now moving on, experimentation. So what I'm going to talk about is basically, I'm going to go through some experiments, some failures. I'm going to talk about some rules for testing, some tools for testing. What are some examples of things you can test and where to get ideas, how to have a culture of it, and then wrap up. So this is like, I'm going to give you just a picture of like where we were in 2009. Right now, you're all in the middle of e-commerce, but this was definitely slowing down for anything involving home sales in 2009. You can see fewer and fewer people were starting houses. There was the collapse. The number of people searching for blinds is way down versus 2 years earlier. And so we're looking for ways to grow. So I'm going to describe, this is kind of a tool. Has anyone heard, raise your hand if you heard of this tool, the Ansoff Matrix? No. Okay. First of all, raise your hand if you can hear me.
Yes, we are.
Thank you, good Lord. Okay, nice match. Okay, so this is a nice, a couple of little tools to look for areas of growth. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can sell, number one, sell the same thing to the same people. That's like the easiest thing you can do. It's what you're already doing. But it includes things like lowering your prices, advertising more, acquiring companies. And the biggest opportunities in number one are often just to make the experience better or to have them leave you less often. So some stuff in particular online experience we're going to cover later. Number 4, on the other hand, can you see my pointer? No. Now you see it, right? So 4 on the other hand is very hard to do. You're changing 2 things at the same time. You're trying to sell. No one successfully suddenly gets into a new business to new customers. So the real meat is in number 2 and 3. 2 is you think about your customers who are already buying from you, and you're saying, what other things do they need? And that requires you to really understand and ask them a lot of questions and meet with them. So I don't know if any of you can just stop for a second and think about what you're already selling. I mean, the customers you're already serving, what other things could they buy? And number 3 is taking what you're selling and finding new markets for it. Some examples of what we did at Blinds was we opened up a store in Canada. And then another example is that we were realizing that to buy every new customer and advertise was costing us more and more. At first it was easy and then it got harder. And so we decided that we're going to try and do this service for other people. Instead of us attracting the customers, we will go to Wayfair and say, we'll run your blinds business. And at the time, Sears and other companies, we'll run your blinds business. And it was a very successful, we started tiny, but really our dream was to sell to someone like through JCPenney at the time or Home Depot or Lowe's. We were deep in discussions with Lowe's, and And that's when Home Depot came around shopping. And instead of just a partnership, we end up with an entire acquisition. One of the things I want to talk about or just mention here is that in general in selling, there's two different incentives. There's the opportunity to gain, and then there's fear of loss. Like you could go to somebody and say, hey, you could save money if you come to me, or you could say you're losing money right now by not doing this. It's the second one is much more effective. So Home Depot swooped in when they thought that Lowe's was going to take us from them, and that was so in general. And so think about your business and how you sell to customers. There's a great book that I recommend at the end on behavioral economics about the fear of loss being a strong motivating factor. Okay, so this is where we were looking for areas of growth. I mentioned new areas of advertising. So we tried things like dry cleaning hangers. It seemed to make sense. So it's an eco-friendly thing. So thumbs up if you think this would work. Okay, no, it was a horrible success. I mean, it was a horrible failure. And then it was like, all right on the back of that success, we're like, try direct mail. Now today, you think direct mail is dead. It's actually not dead. There's still a lot of business in direct mail. But I'm going to how to test direct mail in general. You're testing offer, list, and then creative. And out of about 10 different cells that we were testing, almost all of them failed, except for one that was people who already bought from us. And we were surprised, because if you bought from us, why do you need to buy again? But we discovered something about our customers that we should have asked them and should have known already, which is that people don't buy at one shot. They buy maybe a room at a time. And there's always and then what became 90% of a failure, the 10% that was successful, became a major part of our advertising from then on out to advertise to people who had maybe bought from us or just sampled from us. We also did radio. Radio is also something today. I would say radio and podcast, where we were sponsors of some of the largest national radio shows. Every conservative radio show and podcast that you're familiar with, you're probably on it. But we started very small, and we failed 70% of the time. But in baseball, if you're batting 300, that's pretty good. So the key there is to understand what constitutes success and be able to switch early. So for example, there's something called, I'm going to introduce you to, called a micro conversion. When you go and you're going to, let's say, go out with somebody, you want them to marry you, you're not going to ask them to marry you right away. You maybe ask for their phone number, in other cultures at least. So when you have a customer, you're not trying to get them to immediately buy from you necessarily. You just want them, and if you're advertising on broadcast, on radio, podcast, or TV, you want them to come to your website. That's it. Once you're at the website, you have one goal: either get them to buy or to get them to interact with you and give them your information. So for us, we pushed for a micro conversion of order a free sample. It doesn't cost anything. We could get maybe 10% of the people to do it, as opposed to 1% to buy from us. And of those 10%, we could convert half of them over time to buy from us. So it's a great look for small things that you can do, and it became a major program. And then we had on the website, and I'm gonna back up and talk about some general things about understanding your customers. But what you're trying to do on e-commerce is like toothpaste. You're moving somebody one step at a time, squeezing them through the tube. So like every page has its purpose. A home page, your goal there is to get them to do one other page and not bounce. And you have a category page, and the goal there is to make it easy for them to sort and filter and click on one product. A product page, make them push add to carts, etc. So we look for ways, the things that were the most, we asked our customers what were the most difficult parts of this journey. Think about blinds. People don't do it often. They do it once every few years or never. And while they're doing it, they're afraid they're going to do something wrong. They're going to mess up the measurements. So what we were looking at is ways we can make it easier. And they didn't have to, like videos to make it easy to measure. A wizard to guide them through picking which product. If colors are worry, let them order quick and with one click, a bunch of colors to their home and see what it looks like. So I would just say that some of the main ways we grew were not through advertising and new customers, but year after year, improving the conversion rate by about 10% a year over the course of like 12 years.
Right. Explain conversion rate to them, please.
Conversion rate is, once Penny Ganevich and I were at a conference talking together, and we were both talking about conversion rate, and he said, we're not trying to convert anybody. But anyway, it's a simple math of if you take the number of people who buy from you divided by the number of people who came to your website, unique visitors in a given month or day or whatever. That's a conversion. It's a very tricky number because you're taking everything into one shoal and mixing it together, because you have people who didn't come there to buy. You have people who didn't come there through advertising. They were planning to buy with 100%. Maybe they were someone in your call center and they were just going to buy from you 100%. So you really have to look at that conversion rate you have to break it up by which kind of traffic is conversion rates. And then you want to look at micro conversion rate. Like, all I want to do is get them to go to the next page. All I want to do is get them to do a free sample or something like that. Is that explained? There's a great book, Web Analytics 2.0 by Avinash that has a lot about understanding. It's a little old, but it's all still applicable. So one of the things is, if you raise your hand if you played Scrabble before. No Scrabble? Wow. Like, one of the things you do is you don't trade in all your cards at once. You'll have to start all over. It's like a rebound relationship. You know, new problems, new solutions, but it's not really. You want to be making slight improvements to one little thing at a time. That's how Amazon does it, and Google and Facebook and Uber. You're testing one small thing and making sure you can understand the outcome of it. Okay. I'm going to skip this slide for a second. So I'm going to go to some rules for testing. First of all, testing is essential to continually growing your business. It's the way you're going to continue. If you're not willing to take a risk, you're not going to be able to find success. So I wanted to create some rules. Number one was, is it going to be meaningful enough? Imagine if it's successful. Will it even matter? So, and what's even worse is if you call something a test, but you have no idea and afterwards what the result was. Either because you have like 5 people took this version and 5 people did that version, and you're never going to know, because 2 versus 1 is not statistically significant. If like 2 people succeeded out of the 5 in one group and 1 person succeeded out of the 5 in the other group, so it's just a waste of time. You want to start very big. Like when you're playing the game, like guess a number from 1 to 100, you don't say 39 and then 38 and then 37. You say, all right, 70, am I higher or lower? And you go 30, and you wide swings. So you want to like really test obvious things. For example, if you're trying to test if direct mail can work, or any given advertising, you don't want to wonder, oh, maybe I didn't give a good enough offer. Maybe it was a bad offer. It was like 10% off. I should have done. So you want to be like, throw the kitchen sink at it and make sure that it's the biggest offer possible. And all you're really testing is the channel at that time. You got the idea? Okay. Like, and what's that? The other thing is, number 2 is like, is the test aligned with your plan? You're not just randomly popping around and ideas. You're trying to get somewhere. So for us at blinds.com, we believed we were trying to get to our customers needed an expert. And there's a lot of people online by the time after a couple of years selling blinds, and they needed a guide. And so this is like this is a really cool exercise. Not that maybe I would look up brand archetypes. You may think it's not that applicable to you, but it's like, what do you represent? What are you like dangerous? Are you safe? Are you close to your customer? You want to have a brand, what you represent. For us, what our customers really needed was a guide. So like a sage or someone to walk them through. And so everything we were testing was about expertise. Can we prove expertise to people? And can we make it easy for them to do it? These are some examples. Every brand is, let's say, the Innocent, the Sage, the Explorer. Okay, so that was number 2. Is it aligned with your strategic plan? Number 3, how long does it take to get results? Some things you won't know for 6 months. Why bother doing it? Or figure out a way that you can know instantly. When I mentioned radio, you often don't know for a number of months, and you're wasting all that money while it's unsuccessful. So what you want to do is find little indicators of success. We found if you could even look at what time people visited the website, for one, and number 2 is if they ordered free samples and they mentioned that it was from that source. That was like an indicator, and we were able to quickly shut down and dial up different radio sources by getting faster results by picking a metric that wasn't the ultimate conversion. It was a little micro conversion. Number 4 is how hard is it going to be to pull together this test? There are tests that are as easy as a different color button, and there's tests that require an entire thing to be built out. You want to prioritize things that are easier to do, or if they require a lot of work, you want to find ways to test them in a way that doesn't require work. At Reliant Energy, when I spent 5 years, one of the things we did was we were testing if we could convince customers to join us online. Now, we didn't have the mechanism to do a credit check online and to convert and to put them into the system. It would take a lot of money to pull that together. So what we did instead was we made it look like we had it. And then some dude would sit there like in a swivel chair and type on a different computer. And so it would be like, basically we're hacking our way into what looked like a great experience. From the customer, they didn't know the difference. But behind the scenes, it was like manual until your knuckles are bleeding, so that you could get results. Once you get results, now you know you can build out, or you have the money to build out the thing. So find quick ways to do something easily instead of waiting to the big solution. And finally, even if it does win, do I want to do it? There was a story about Coca-Cola that was like changing the price of their Coke machines depending on how hot it was outside. Of course it won, but then they got such a backlash that they had to shut it down. And so a lot of examples of things that would be profitable are not things you're going to do. So why even test them? So that's it. I'm going to pause for a second and ask if there's any questions.
I don't have any questions. That whole part of the computer, what was that about? Go have that idea again. Part of what we were doing with the whole background checks and people and having someone behind a computer, what was?
No, I was saying one of the tests that they had, that they performed, they wanted people to, they made a website, they pretended that there was like an automated service, but really when they put people, there was a person behind it taking the information. It wasn't automated, but they
in general, it's like another book I recommend is The Lean Startup, and there's a lot of, and when you're starting a company or starting a new thing, you don't have the money often or the time to do it right. So you have choices. You have to fake doing it right, and make sure that from the customer's point of view, it feels okay. But on your side, you're doing something that does not scale. It's never going to go to 100 or 1,000 or 1 million, but it works with 10. And you got to just make it work just until you can figure out that you can prove to yourself, or you can prove to an investor to give you money, that this is actually going to be useful. If it all worked, does that resonate?
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing with testing, there's definitely the tools are to have, you cannot improve and manage what you can't measure. So having a good web analytics, even a free one in there with A/B testing is important. You have that's testing on your website experience. And then A/B testing would be testing 2 different versions of something, like what works better when I say this or when I say that. You really want to be doing it like even how you introduce yourself, what works better, and then you're changing it a little bit. That's true when somebody's already interacting with you on the website or on your product on Amazon. Another one, it would be before they ever get there. So you can use search engine testing to change the ad wording and have 2 different versions and see which one gets higher clicks or which one gets higher quality clicks, or same thing with Facebook ad testing. There's also a lot of great tools for landing pages. Sometimes you've got a website and you can't change it quickly because it's too complicated, or you don't want to change your main website. What you can do though is create a landing page, and allow yourself to have, let's say, multiple versions of the landing page.
A landing page is basically in one page.
So let's say you're selling construction services. Your website might be really old looking, or I don't know what it looks like. But what if you tested, go to Unbalance or Instapage, any of these landing page solutions, and you can put together a page in 5 minutes that allows you to run some ads, see which wording works best in order to get a lead, in order to get somebody to say, yes, I'm interested, or contact me, or I want to download the top 5 things that could go wrong when I'm remodeling, or something like that. So I'd say that this is an essential tool. This is essential for anybody like who's doing online marketing, is to do landing page testing. This is true for direct mail also. And I mentioned the 3 real things that you're testing. You're testing an offer, which is like, how much am I giving away? You always have to have an offer with a limited time on it. And then you're testing.
I want to just interject for a lot of them here, a lot of people. Anytime you want to sell a new product or something, and you want to just test it out, landing pages is nowadays such an easy way to test something. You make a single page and you put your product up there, and you just see if people bite. You can you can make 5 versions of it.
You don't need a programmer to do any of this. So, so when you're testing direct mail, also really in all tests and all advertising tests, you really have these 3 things. You've got how much you're giving and what the offer is. What's the creative, like the copy or creative, and then who are you advertising? What's the list in the case of that? And I don't know if anybody does broadcast. So I'll skip it. I'll go quicker. But you want to basically make sure to give a promo code or some way to know where it came from, or you ask when somebody buys from you. I would do this every time. And for years, this was the main way we attributed sales to the advertising, was asking, where did you hear about us? Whenever somebody bought or whenever somebody sampled. Another way you can do it is with like sister cities. You can do one thing to one side of town and another to another side of town, and basically compare results of the 2. And we talked a lot about the micro conversion. So for a lot of what I've just talked about is about trying to get somebody to buy from you. But then you have another area of like, how happy are they? So there's a tool called NPS. Are you familiar with NPS, anyone?
No.
Okay, Net Promoter Score. And it's a common tool that is used across companies to basically measure customer satisfaction. But it goes like this. You ask them the question. You say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to friends and family? That's it. And then you take everybody. It's not the average score. You actually do something a little different than average. You take anybody who gave you like an 8, 9, and 10, and that's considered a point. Everybody who gave you like a 5 to 7 or something like that, and it's like a neutral. Anyone who's like 5 and below, or I think, is a negative, and that's a negative point. And you average it out. Some of the most successful companies, you basically can look at their NPS score and know how they are. So this is a good thing to do, I think, for sure, for a company that has like it's not a quick e-commerce company, but somebody who has business to B2B or business clients, or even home clients that have long conversions, or long engagements, like the contractor. So in NPS, another thing you can do is not only do NPS, but actually measure NPS at different times. In the beginning, while they're browsing, you can measure it after they've bought, when they got the order, when they've installed it, or a year later. And then you can also do that basically depending on, so you can like break it down by, oh wait, what's the NPS depending on which brand they bought, or what's the NPS depending on which category they bought. These are some ways of listening to your customer and measuring how happy they are and improving that part of the customer journey. Another tool which I have used in the past, and I think it's good in life, and it's not only for like large companies, is to help you, like guide you through how to prioritize things. I heard this joke about a guy. He pulls up in his BMW, and he's getting out of the car, and so he's getting out of the car, and somebody drives right by and just rips off his car door. He starts yelling at him, "What the hell's wrong with you? Are you crazy?" He's yelling about his door, his car, his Beamer. Somebody walks up to him. This is a lawyer. Somebody walks up to the lawyer and says, "Dude, your arm is ripped off. Look." He looks down. He's got no arm. He had no idea. He's like, my Rolex. Anyway, so you have to have priorities, and this is a good way to help you prioritize. So there's a grid. I like 2x2 things. In this case, you have rating. If you have, let's say, 10, 20, 100 ideas, and it's not rare. And if you can get, especially as we talk about later, where you get your ideas from.
One second there. Oh, everyone wants to know if you could share, you can share the slide deck when you're done.
Yes. So like you can rate things, and you can even do this independently. So if you have 5 people in your company, or you don't tell each other your scores, so you don't want to influence each other, because you get the group think and everybody says the same thing and they all start agreeing with each other. But really, when I independently rate them and kind of put together, you rate on from 1 to 5, how big an impact will this make? And you can even give guidance where a 5 means it's going to get us $100,000 a year, or whatever the normal, in impact. This would be measured either in profit gain to the company or cost cutting from the company, something that is consistent across every project. You could do either profit gain or profit, or cost reduction, or revenue, whatever you want. So that's that, and you're rating it from 1 to 5. Each one you give a score. Like a 1 would be under $10,000. From a 2 would be this, and then you say how easy it to do. Is it a month's work? Is it 2 weeks work? Is it like 5 minutes work? And it's not going to tell you anything you don't already know. It's going to lay out things very nicely for you. So you can say, okay, I have these things here that are super impact. They have opportunity if they're successful, if it's a test, or maybe it's just a thing you want to do. So if it's successful, it's going to be a major impact, and it'll take 5 minutes to do. Those are the gems. Those are things you want to jump on right away. The things that are like, okay, this is a screenshot of us going through a project list after strategic planning. This was like the things that are like, it's probably going to be a lot of work. It's not even going to forget. Even if it did work, it wouldn't be, And then these are the things you have. Basically, you want to mix up these two, because these ones are easy and they may not move. You can't get 100% improvement with one thing, but you can get 100 things with 1% improvement, and a lot of quick hits. And then you want to also have some big project that could really change your company. So in larger companies, I'm not going to spend that much time, but like you can actually put together a list and like rating things, and other people can put ideas for tests. This is using the Airtable, so that like people can say, submit tests or submit ideas for improvements. So it's not just one person. If you work on a company, maybe you should be suggesting things, or maybe you can be part of a group that is the facilitating group that helps to run tests or experiments. It should not be managed like high-level managers only. It should be people who are closest to the customer. And so then so you basically want to look at each step of it and say, where is there opportunity at each step? Before somebody finds out about us, what you're testing is how can I get in their face more? And then once they already know about you, but they're comparing you, you want to basically see, all right, what makes them click over to me? And then you want to, at this stage, say, how do I improve our reputation? So this would be like, over here, it'd be like, advertising. This is, over here is search engine, and also like, making sure that you're findable when someone needs you. Here is how people review you, and building reviews. Here you have all the conversion things that I talk so much about. And then here you have afterwards, what's the experience, and how do you make sure they're happy and they talk good things about you? I've heard that a positive comment, something about how, I'm going to screw it up. It's 7 to 1 or something about how it's better to hold on to a customer than to get 7 new customers. I don't know. So as far as where you get ideas from, the people who are closest to the customer really have the best ideas. We used to have this board up in the company, a massive screen that would show a live feed of every comment people were saying about us, good and bad. You don't have to have a screen to do that, but it's important to make sure everyone reads the good and the bad. Also, there's all these little tools you can put on your websites, like a little survey, Opinion Lab or free ones that are like, how happy were you with this and that kind of thing. One of the very important tools also I'm going to mention, every single person who bought from us 30 days later got an email from the CEO saying, if there was one thing that we could do to improve, what would it be? And that email was formed probably the most rich opportunity for, number one, shutting down angry customers and fixing them. And number two, finding ideas to improve every part of the experience. So it's that email is super important for the coupon. But we also had like an online, like a little internal website where people could add ideas, and we would meet every couple of weeks to talk about which tests we're going to do, and they would report how we did, etc. When you're comparing yourself, you're not only and when you look at it, you're not only looking at your competitors, you're looking at anyone else in the space. You get ideas from people who are not at all in your space. So I'm going to talk briefly now about culture, because like you cannot do this in a company that punishes failure. So this is like one of my important things core to me is that I want to get the truth and have people be honest and open. And the worst thing you can do is not to fail. Failure is okay. In fact, many times it should be celebrated. It's to hide something or to like cover up a failure, or stagnation, to have like not be sure what you're in, like be afraid to move forward because you're going to be afraid to fail. As long as you limit the failure and say it's not going to blow up the company, here's how much that's a risk, etc. There's something in many companies called the Hippo rule. The Hippo rule, they don't know they have it, but it means the highest paid person's opinion. That's what always wins. And that's how they drive themselves into the ground, as opposed to actually seeing what the customer wants and giving them a chance to do it. So this is another thing we had. The culture wasn't just about allowing failure. We actually actively wanted people to improve themselves. We had a whiteboard. As you walk into the office, what are you doing it was erased every week. And it was kind of like, what are you working on to improve? In whether it's like, I'm learning a new language, I'm reading with my kid, it doesn't have to be work related. We would actually hire people specifically and ask them questions to see if they were experimenting in life and trying to, like they were trying to improve themselves and they fit our core values, one of which was to have continual improvement. And then the final thing wanted to mention is, like, here are some books that I'm going to talk about that really helped me to guide thinking about how to experiment, how to understand my customers better. I mentioned Seth Godin. He has a lot of really good books on a daily blog. This is the one that talks about behavioral economics, predictably irrational. It helps you to understand how to, I won't say manipulate, but how to get your customers to do the things that you want them to do in a way that's good for them, hopefully. This is similarly this is also on behavioral economics, thinking fast and slow. This is more about the why, why we do things. This is a good one for these two are about startups and helping you not, many times we ask the question, hey, what do you think about my idea? And the person's like, oh, this is a great idea, it's the best. And you do your idea and it's a terrible failure. And this helps you figure out, this one's a free PDF download. And it's like how to properly do user interviews, user testing. And this last one is I'm sure, Shua, maybe you've talked a little bit about it. There's an entire website called Lean Stack that has like tools, free tools for like putting together a business plan on one page. And then how to run user testing. And this book is, I think, related to it. Frankly, I'm sorry, I have not read the book, but I have used the tools on the website to help me to arrange startup ideas. So to wrap it up and get to questioning, number one, there's no silver bullet. You have to be doing things, 100 things, 1% better. Marketing is about listening to your customers and experimenting with improvements. And as long as you're not punishing mistakes, you're going to be improving. So I'm going to stop with the presentation and give you a chance to ask questions. I like question and answer format more than I like presenting format.
So I think what we'll do is whoever has a question, let them come to Scott, who's a little bit, you don't have any question?
That's important. Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay, so come. He can't hear you if you're sitting for
Can I ask you?
What? Just.
Be like my shirt, man. Like,
Okay, all right, so go ahead. Yeah, so here's the first question. Yes. Oh. What? No, come sit over here. Okay.
What was the feedback from those emails you said that the CEO sent out? Did it work?
Every single time we got, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of emails, but first it was like an email a day and then 10 and then 100. But it absolutely, what it got was the things that we need to fix. So many people are afraid to hear what they need to fix. If you force yourself to hear it and you force the whole company to see it and the CEO reads it, you're going to know. So like examples.
Sure.
Okay. The website's hard to use. It takes forever. It takes forever to load. When I talked to somebody, I felt pressured into buying something. I waited forever on hold. Your website shows a color and it actually doesn't match what I actually got. The thing came, came crooked, and we actually would categorize that, and we would then look at this. So some of it was just absorbing a bunch of feedback and then answering and fixing problems for people. But other one, we were actually categorizing it so we could see, all right, when people order cordless, the thing breaks a certain amount of time. Is it getting more often or less often? Now we can talk to our suppliers to improve the product. Unless you're asking, you're not finding out what's broken. So it was a wide variety of what kind of feedback we would get, but it was always important. And as I mentioned, it's not just about improving; it's about taking that customer who's really angry. And one other thing is, whenever we got a good piece of feedback that was like glowing about us, then we double down and we'd say, "Would you mind posting this? Here's a link." So we'd only get the good ones to post, and we get the bad ones. And because one of the things I learned about online reviews, whether it's on your own website or on Amazon or on Yelp or on some other third party, is you cannot erase bad reviews pretty much. Trying to do that is like is hitting your head against the wall. What you can do is flood with good reviews. And as long as they're legitimate, but you're an idiot if you're taking all this good stuff in and you're not posting it anywhere, and you're only letting the angry people post. They're getting a biased view. The world's getting a bad view of your company. So basically, one more thing. So 3 things you're getting from that feedback is you're getting good ideas, you are fixing problems, and then you're getting people who can share on Facebook or on the review websites.
You said if someone was angry, they would reply, but usually if someone's upset about a certain product they get, they're going to reach out regardless. They don't need to get an email from the CEO.
You'd be surprised. Some people are very passive, and they're conflict avoidant, and they don't want to make trouble. We're all very aggressive customers, and we're gonna stake our, get what we need. But a lot of people are not like that. And so if you ask me the question, and I'll do the same thing. If I'm not really angry, I'm only like, I have a negative feeling towards you. Don't you wish everybody would tell you something about you personally that they're annoyed with? I know I would. I think I would. I'm not sure. But instead of like basically going through life with just like, I'd rather not know, because if they're really angry at me, they'll yell at me. I mean, bring it in. It's not the same thing. You get much more.
If something's broken out, someone want a broken product or a damaged item, they're going to call. Or if it's missing items.
Not everything is so black and white.
One last thing, can you explain again what micro conversion is?
Okay. I mentioned you're not going to ask somebody to marry you on the first date, right? So what you're trying to do is win that step. In the world, you're trying to get a phone number. That's what you're trying to get, right? So until the age of Tinder, and now it's different. But you basically are. The purpose of advertising is not to get them to buy from you. It is to get them to come to your website, or if that's your main thing, or walk into your store. That's the thing. Everything you should know the purpose. The purpose of of each page. So like a micro conversion for us, one important one was they watched a video, or they read reviews, or they ordered, the most important one of all was they ordered a free sample. It was free. It cost us money. We would send out a little fabric swatch in the mail of different colors, or they could just pick their own, or they could get a pack. And then they could, after that, they would get it in the mail, and then they would, it's like now we have a relationship with them. We have their email address, we've got their address, we've got their phone number, and we were able to convert half of them into buyers. So figuring out not to go all the way, but to figure out something that's minor you can get accomplished in that one opportunity, that one engagement you're talking with somebody. It's like when you're having a discussion, you're not trying to go, like, it's slow, it's not transactional here, it's relationship building. And you want to get the thing you want from it. So like, and right now I'm involved with a company called Spruce, as I mentioned, and for luxury apartment buildings, we do pet care and housekeeping, and we'll be in the building. And what we want to do is,
You have a partnership with Noah?
we do not yet, but Noah, let's talk.
Do you currently still work for blinds.com, or you sold it all to?
So I wasn't not the owner. I was a part owner, and I came in early with equity. We sold the company in 2014. I left in 2017 or 18, and I stayed on for almost 4 years with the Home Depot afterwards. And the reason, I forgot to mention, the reason they bought us was not because as much they needed a blinds company, it was because we were going to be their future for anything that was hard to buy and custom. We didn't aspire to be blinds. We wanted to be e-commerce for things that are complicated, and something that Amazon can't do. You can't just click add to cart on these things. They all have business rules and all these rules, So that's why they bought us, and it was actually successful. And Houston is a large center now for Home Depot in building out fences and shelves and whatever, all these different things, garage doors and flooring, that using that technology, that call center, that marketing team, et cetera. After I left, I left, and I was in different things here and there. Last 2 or 3 years, I spent 1 year inside of Spruce, and now I'm not day to day there. But I am related to blinds still, because I have an opportunity to. I'm a wholesale supplier to them.
How do you get hold of these big companies? So you say you have Liz and these big companies reaching out to you.
We had to fight our way up the chain from the smallest of the small, from Rugs Direct to Sears to Wayfair to all the way basically to say, and each one was not worthwhile on their own. It was all about the price, like basically proving that we can sell blinds on behalf of somebody else. So that when you answer the phone, it's answering for them. When you get them the package, the package says theirs. We running the website with separate pricing and with separate, whatever. You get the idea. Like basically putting up a front, a white label website. How do we get them to? You reach out. You keep reaching out. You go to conferences. You are present. And basically, I don't know if that works. What really works is by forcing their hand, by making it dangerous for them not to talk to you. So once we were talking to one, it becomes like, like I said, fear of loss is much more effective than, okay, let's to switch to knowing your customer a little bit.
By the way, Danielle, just out of curiosity, when Lowe's was talking to you, you strategically found a way to let Home Depot know that, or they just found out on their own?
We found out. I mean, we let them know. What happened, the truth is that we were deep in discussions with them about running their blinds website, which would have been nice. It wouldn't have been world changing, but it would have been nice. And they had a head of their general counsel, their head lawyer was so strict. He wanted us to bear some risk that we were not happy with. If God forbid a kid choked on it or something, we had insurance, which happens, a couple times a year in the country, where somebody chokes on a string of blinds. So if any of you have kids, please be careful. Either order cordless or keep the strings out of the away from cribs. So anyway, but we had insurance, but they wanted to push it away from our insurance and make us be personally liable or something ridiculous. We were going back and forth with them for 2-3 months on this issue that we were not willing to budge. And Home Depot was sniffing around to find some solution for somebody to run their blinds business. maybe they would acquire a tool. They thought they were going to acquire a tool for a cheap price. They came in, and my CEO Jay, who my boss and a mentor of mine, was such a great storyteller and such a amazing. He sold them on the culture of the company. So it wasn't about spreadsheets, it wasn't about a tool. It was about buying an innovation center that could be a future for Home Depot, and it really worked. I mean, he lived up to it. And basically, we kept Lowe's going, even though we were not going to buy. It was not going to work. I could tell. We kept the conversation on slow heat, simmer, just so we got long enough so we could really keep Home Depot scared. That's what happened.
You said about choking. Actually, recently I bought these blinds. I bought them like a few years ago, and they lost for a few years. The same company now they changed it. They don't have the string anymore because they said it's for safety to choking hazard.
Yeah.
All right, is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, Shimon, just sit up though. Easier for Daniel.
I'm assuming you didn't have to raise any money, being that you didn't have any inventory. You're right.
You're right.
Am I wrong?
You're right about the inventory, and you're right about the money kind of also. The company was started from with $3,000 from the founder's pocket, and he put up a website. He was his own customer service. Internet, when he would get an order, he would be driving to somebody's house to install their blinds, and he'd pull over to the side of the highway with a cell phone like a brick, and start to customer service. So, but and the company grew organically, profitably. However, it did bring in investors, and the reason is because it wanted to grow faster than its profits would allow. And one of those investors actually was our suppliers. It ended up being a big problem because there's a conflict of interest. We got locked in, and we were telling them too much information, and it did not free us to be competitive. We were buying basically from our supplier, and they were our owners, a little bit. And one of the reasons we had to raise money was to kick them out of the investment and buy them out fairly. And so we raised we were not like a Silicon Valley style startup with raising venture capital, but we did raise growth equity. And that was because the CEO wanted some money, number one. Number two, kick out the suppliers. And number three, make us grow faster. So we brought in some investors to help us grow more quickly.
Thank you.
And that was a big process. It was a challenging process. But anyway, I don't think that's relatable to a lot of people here.
Okay, so I just want to sum up for everybody over here. I mean, the main message I wanted all of you to walk away with from Daniel's class was, number one is, for those of you that are itching for startup, or at any point in your life you can do a startup, like Daniel says, you got to test it out before. Find a way, make landing page. Find a way before you go all in on. And here at CHYE, we've seen so many times where someone gets caught up in this idea and they put so much money and time and effort into it before they know that people want it. It's much better. This is Daniel's whole class is about the spirit of testing. Find a way to test. Take your idea, hack it. Make a little one, test it, see if people bite. Before you go all in on things, just really, I don't know if you said this or I just heard this recently. A lot of people come with an idea and and I actually saw this take place here. Someone blew $100,000 right here in this room. He had an app idea and he was so into it and he was visualizing it and he was paying developers but he couldn't get you. He ran out of money before he could even put it out to be used because he maxed all his credit cards so you want to find a way to come up with your idea on the cheapest, most smallest way and test it. That's point number one for people that if you ever get it. Point number two is even if you're not in a startup, if you're in an existing business, just because you're in an existing business selling one thing doesn't mean that you can't improve what you sell or find other ways, other things you can sell or other ways to sell what you have. And all you can only find out if you listen to what Daniel's saying here. It's not about the testing. You listen to your customers and you test that. If you bring that spirit in, if you're stuck in just this is what I have and that's all I have, and then you get stuck. But
also, to mention, the worst time to run experiments is when everything's on the line, when it's like a bad time. because then it like has to succeed, and then you cannot fail, and you're not really testing. You're basically, so you really need to be instituting this when times are good, so that you're, get into a culture of it. There's always like a budget and always time, a little time in your day, or a little money in the account to be running tests, because that's when then you can afford to fail. You have to be able to afford to fail.
All right, any final questions? So come up over here.
For everyone.
Okay.
We're
This will be
gonna
the
go
final,
back.
this will be the final question.
Not a question, more for everyone. I heard a metaphor, I think it was from Steven Schwartzman, the CEO of Blackstone. And he said, testing, he used the metaphor, firing bullets and then firing cannons to test things, constantly shoot your pistol, try different options, shoot. And then when you see something sticks, that's when you fire the big shot, fire the cannon, invest the hundreds of thousands into that thing that seemingly works from shooting multiple bullets.
Yes.
And that helped me being in business where, always trying new things. And Daniel, I would love to touch base with you, see what we can do with Spruce.
Yeah. One example of just like a little hack, I had an idea for a startup that this is an example of something I've not done yet. So I have this, I look at recruiting, and I've always believed that it's kind of broken. You have these recruiters who get paid a quarter of your salary, and companies, if they don't want to use a recruiter, they have to go and look on their own. And it takes a ton of time. You're supposed to be doing your job instead you're trying to find employees. And it's really, and you end up getting somebody who's not a good fit, and you only find out 6 months later that they're really not a good fit. So my idea was to create a peer-to-peer recruiting network where people could recommend somebody for a job, and if they were successful, then they would get a small reward for being the one who was the hero to connect the person to the job. A whole thing, a process like this. I'm not going to go into it because I'm not trying to sell you on my idea. The point was, when I talked to people about it, and I had all this stuff about artificial intelligence to find out who's a good fit, anyone for this job. I wanted to do machine learning. I wanted to do an app that would always that would connect you and plug into company systems, all this stuff. And like Shua said, I would have been an idiot if I had created a bunch of stuff where I could really just start with an email group, and I could test this very manually on people I know, and find 50 people I know and ask them if they'd like to be part of this idea, and just run it through email instead of an app. So I haven't done it yet, but the fact that I at least I didn't do that, and as opposed to spending all this money on creating the app before. Say there. Any other questions?
Hello? Daniel? Daniel?
Yeah, it's pretty rocky. Now it's coming back. Any other questions?
Are we, yeah, we lost you there for about 30. I don't know if it's my internet or your. What's that? Seems like it's going. I think it's my internet.
I can hear you.
Something's going on with my.
Are there any other questions from the group?
You hear me? Okay. No, that's it. That is. We're no, but they just wanted to hear. Something's not right. My bandwidth is low. Hey, Danielle. Second here. It seems like it's if you hear me, it seems like my. Hello? You hear me? Yeah. Something happened to my internet in my office. It cut out. The whole Zoom shut down. So I'm just holding my cell phone up over here already. So I guess we're going to sign off. There was no other questions. What? So but here, you're on. They could hear you through my phone. They wanted to hear the last minute of what you were saying got cut out.
I don't know what was the last minute I was saying. I was saying at least I didn't. The right way to test it would be to run it manually with an email group and not through an app. And I haven't done that yet. But at least I haven't spent money on the app. But I guess listen, the bottom line is I'm an advocate for startups and young companies. I'm happy to talk to any one of you if you ever have any questions about how to do something. So you can connect to Ashua or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or if there's a contact of mine that I can introduce you to be helpful. Or if you'd like to have any question in your business, I'm here to help.
Yes, and to second that, I send people to Daniil regularly, and he loves to help. So the offer is genuine and real. Thank you very much. It was fantastic, Daniil. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful week. Cotlar, we'll be in touch.
Amen.